We are live and we are recording. Let me double check. Beautiful. We're doing it. Brilliant. I've got all these buttons I'm pressing and sometimes I press the wrong one, but today I pressed the right one. Oh, Dawn, thank you so much for this. I'm loving everything you're doing. I've just been sharing before we went live. I'm following all of your momentum that you are creating ever since we met, sort of not virtually, even audio. I don't know what the equivalent of audio, but in the ethos of the BBC conversation chat that we had months ago, I'm just loving the energy that you're putting out there. Is it feeling as good as it is for me watching as you doing it?
Well, good morning from New York City, Eleanor. Thank you so very much for keeping me close, right? And yes, we met during our BBC interview virtually or orally, whatever you call it. And I'm so glad that we're connected. So yes, the momentum is moving, right? We're moving forward. Every single day, I'm taking a step towards our goal of the Nourish Spot serving as a ubiquitous brand. And what I try to do is I try to use all the daylight hours, right, to push the business forward. And then I use the nighttime hours to sleep because I feel like perseverance is key to sustaining a business for a long haul, for the long haul. And I'm looking for longevity, right? Legacy and longevity for the Nourish Spot. So it feels exhilarating and exhausting all at the same time.
That's good. That's good. Bit of honesty, as I would expect from you. Nothing more, nothing less. Love it. Well, our sort of topic today, because I've had you on my podcast, we've done all these talks, but I really thought the topic today that'd be really interesting to talk about is how to back yourself. Because as I've said, I'm watching you on social media doing all this stuff. You're making it look easy, but we know behind the scenes, so much else goes out there. So I would love you to just share this piece that what's the importance of backing yourself when you're trying to start something new or just, boost your confidence in whatever you're doing. What is that thing about backing yourself?
Well, Eleanor, early on in my life, my mom, Joan Kelly, she told me that if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. So if you don't believe you can, you can't. And if you don't believe you can, you won't. And so, first and foremost, I pray. I have a very big belief in a higher power. So I believe in God. And so there's a scripture that says, I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. So that's kind of like my foundation, right? And then layered on top of that is what my mom told me, right? And my experiences. And I know that each and every single time as a young adult and now as a seasoned entrepreneur, every single time that I betted on myself and then gave the required energy, time, and effort to whatever it is that I put my mind towards, it was able to manifest. It actually happened. And so one, you do your research, right? After you give yourself the foundation and you affirm yourself and you tell yourself you can do it, right? There's a famous cup in the States called Rosie the Riveter, and she has her fist up and she says, you can do it. And I have that cup in my house, right? And so I believe that once you lay that foundation and you affirm for yourself, even if you have to stand in the mirror and tell yourself you can do it and remind yourself of the times before where you set a goal and you achieved them, right? Like reflect back on those, remember those, then go forward with the research, and just try. Nothing beats a failure but a try. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. You know, all those things that like here in the States we learn from Disney, you know, you just put one foot in front of the other and soon you'll be walking, right? It's just once you decide, and you have to decide, right? But once you decide what it is, what the goal is, what the achievement is, and then you focus. My dad, rest his soul, he used to play horses, right? And I always wondered why the horses wore blinders, right? But the horses wore blinders so they didn't look left or right. So they stayed focused on the goal. And so it's important that once you have that goal, you put on your blinders and then you just keep going until you accomplish it. And along the way, you'll meet people that will help you. And then you figure out how to be reciprocal in that assistance so that they will help you again, right? And that's how I have fueled myself. That's how I have put a battery in my own back. Is to one, dream, two, put the blinders on, three, do the research, four, go for it with abandon, right? And then the most important, rest, reflect, and then start all over again.
I love it. But right, okay. So that is amazing. And I'm just gonna clip that out and have that my morning wake up call. Cool, brilliant. But I know there have been moments where it didn't feel like that. And I think we all have moments where it feels like this is just where is this going? Like really down moments. Can you share moments like that and how you kind of get yourself into a different space when you're just having these low moments, where this all came from?
You are absolutely right, Eleanor. There's always moments of um like what if,
Mm.
right? Entrepreneurs live in a constant what if. It's like a seesaw. I don't know if they have those in
Hmm.
in the States. We have this play yard thing. It's called a seesaw, and one day you're up, incredibly up. And then the next day you're like, oh God, the business is failing. And so you have to find the happy medium. And I would tell you in the beginning, I didn't know how to find
Mm,
that because I was a new entrepreneur and all I could do was worry, right?
mm,
Um, and be an insomniac. Because it was like my mind was overthinking and I couldn't shut it off. And so no matter what, I would have sleepless nights.
mm.
But um, what I have done to combat those feelings is reflect.
Mm.
I've taken the time to remember those days beforehand in the past where I thought I was going to fail, right? Where I thought that we reached a brick wall, where I thought the bottom was going to fall out, and remembered how it all came together,
Yeah.
right? Like today, I'm standing here talking to you. So no matter what worry I had yesterday or 3 months ago or 6 years ago when I started this business, not knowing what the hell I was doing, okay? um, I just took the time to reflect, right? Remember when I succeeded after I thought that I wouldn't. And then another thing is I call people that I know and that know me and the trials and tribulations and victories that I have achieved over the years. And I allow them to pour into me, right? And to affirm me and to remind me that I can do it. And I think that that's important that you have community, not just family, not just friends, but other entrepreneurs and maybe even people in your community that are your customers to
Mm,
remind you of your goals and objectives, of your why, right? Of the reason why you got in the business in the first place, and then give you some fuel to push you forward. And I have lots of people in my life like that, and I'm grateful for them.
I love that concept of allowing people to pour into you. I love that. And maybe the reverse of that is keep out as well with the negative stuff.
Oh yes. Oh, listen. I often say no negativity here. Positive vibes only.
I love that. Um, so you touched on that why, remind yourself of the why. What is your why?
Well, my why is my community. My why is my children and my legacy. So together, I live in a community where my grandfather put stakes down 80 years ago. Can you believe that? And legacy means everything to me. So his home was the first home in our entire family, both my mother's side and my father's side. And so I'm the eldest, and I always wanted to own the family home. And so I bought my grandfather's home from him before he passed away. And when I had my job eliminated,
Mm,
I knew I did not want to go back to work immediately and
mm,
work for someone else and put my livelihood in the hands of another, right? Because that experience was horrific. And it felt as though the individual was very flippant with my livelihood.
mm,
And so my why was to create something that I owned, that I founded, that I could leave to my children and work with my children and support and push my community forward. And that is what the Nourish Spot is. It's a community gathering spot where people can get healthy, where young people can get jobs and internships. So I believe that we are doing just what I set out to do. And I'm looking forward to pushing past our one footprint as a brick and mortar, and doing more business this year at the US Open. And I'm not sure if I told you, but we got a new place to do business also in July. We will be establishing ourselves at Citi Field, which is the home of the New York Mets. And we will be offering the Nourish Spots smoothies, salads, and wraps, and a nice cucumber lemonade to fans of Citi Field and fans of the Mets. So my why established us in Jamaica, Queens. And now my why is pushing us towards other people who realize that healthy eating is important because health is wealth.
mm. And you sort of touched on it just now around, you haven't always been in that sector. Backing yourself isn't always about just, being in the comfort zone of what you know. You were a corporate through and through citizen, should we say corporate citizen? I
Yeah.
don't know what the right word is.
Yes.
And then, as you say, got made redundant, got laid off, and then completely had this moment of seeing a problem and doing something. That is back yourself. But talk me through what happened. Like, what was that transition like?
Well, the transition between being a corporateer, that's what I call it,
Yeah.
like musketeer.
A corporateer. I love that.
Corporateer, okay? So the difference between being a corporateer and an entrepreneur is like light years different,
Mm,
right? Because when you're a corporateer, you have your sole focus, right? But everything else, the P&L, everything else is working around you. You don't have to worry, you don't have to worry about that. But being an entrepreneur, you wear every single hat until you jump the shark, if you will, and you're able to hire a big team that can manage those things for you. But for the most part, in the initial stages of being an entrepreneur, you are it, right? Like as we say in New York, we play a game called tag, and it's tag, you're it. You are the bottle washer, you are the accountant, you are you do all the work, okay? You clean you mop the floor. And so I'll be honest, after being made redundant, as you all say in Cumbria, um, but here in the States, having my job eliminated, it was challenging. It was difficult. I was in tears because I realized today that my job was tied to my psyche, right? I derived a lot of power, I guess, personal power from the work I did. And I loved it. I was actually really good at it. I can say that. I know that I was excellent at what I did. And so, yes, it was so hard to make that change, to evolve, right? To give up something that I love so much. But thank God I raised my two children correctly, and my daughter saw me wallowing in my pity party and forgetting who I was. And she challenged me to find myself. And I did. Thank you, Jesus. And I'm back using the skills that I amassed during my 30 plus year career as a public relations and marketing executive to propel the Nourish Spot now. So again, it's all full circle. It's like once I got my sea legs back and reminded myself of whose I was and who I am and what I have accomplished, and the stamina and the confidence I have in myself, I was able to kind of right my ship, find training, and invest in myself to learn what I needed to learn so that I could capably, efficiently, effectively, and profitably run the Nourish Spot.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about your story. You went from corporate life to having this idea, but then you didn't jump straight into the idea. You went and did a bit of, you had this idea kind of brewing, but you kind of did other things to sort of build up. And I think in this day and age of everybody wanting everything instantly, we want the instant hit. We want to life hack our way through things and find that overnight success. Find it really inspiring that you kind of you resisted that and you took a step back and, as you say, did the training, went and talked to people.
Yeah.
How important is that when you're backing yourself? Because there's thin lines, I guess, of like, just do it, and then the excuses that you bring in about, not going too fast. What's your kind of views on that?
Well, something that we talked about via email is haste. Again, another one of my mother's cliches, because I used to call her the cliche lady, is haste makes waste. And so when, it took me 30 some odd years to amass the career that I had with doing PR and marketing. And so I knew that if I was going to run a business, I needed skills. And I know that education is key, right? None of us really have gotten to where we are without going through some kind of training, whether it's regular education or it's some kind of certificate training, right? So I already had a college degree, but I didn't have the business acumen that I needed to actually capably run a business. So what I did is I sought out training. And you're right, that's how you back yourself. You go and you find the tools and the people and the education that you need. So I signed up first for a class with QEDC that was called Business Essentials 101. It cost me $100, and I think that they only charge you that to make sure that you showed up, that you had skin in the game. mean? Right. And so I showed up to my classes and I engaged, I participated, I did all the exercises, and it was helpful to me. It helped to increase my confidence. Right. And then after that class, I realized that I still needed to know a lot of stuff, right? That was just enough to make me know what I didn't know. And so I signed up to take another class. This one was called Streetwise MBA, given by a global organization called Interrise. That's INTERRISE. And I took that class, and I would tell you, I'm a seasoned individual. The brain takes a little longer to learn. And I almost quit. I'll be very honest. I almost quit because some of the concepts, some of the information seemed so challenging, but I'm not a quitter. Beyonce says winners don't quit on themselves. And so what I did is I redoubled my effort. I found some people that did understand it, and I asked them to help me, and they helped me through. And I graduated from that class. But then the big daddy of them all came calling, and that's the Goldman Sachs 10K SB program, which is also a global program. And they teach entrepreneurs how to be effective, efficient, and concise. I think that's the other one. It's called EEC, so that you can pitch your business. You could talk about your business in a way that investors, customers, just interested people could understand and engage with. I enrolled and I got accepted in that program. And again, another one, challenging. A couple of times I was in tears thinking, why did I do this to myself? I already got a BA from Howard University. Isn't that enough? No, it's not enough. Education is a lifelong journey. And so I finished that class. And through all of those programs, I gained community of other entrepreneurs and other individuals that were invested in entrepreneurs winning out in these streets. And so those people and all that training that I have amassed up to this day keeps me marching forward.
I love it. I almost want to go and sign up to that thing immediately, even though
you should. You should. The Goldman Sachs class is for everyone. And I am a ambassador for them, unofficial ambassador for them. I'm always advocating for new entrepreneurs that I meet to look for accelerator and incubator programs because there's a lot of them out there that are invested in helping us win. Because you know what, Eleanor, something we didn't talk about at the top, but small businesses. I know in America, I don't know if it's the same in the UK, but small businesses are the engine of the American economy. Small businesses actually hire more people than big businesses do. And so it's imperative that people across the world establish small businesses in their communities and provide services and products to that are culturally competent to their communities, right? So that all of us can thrive.
That's a really important point, and it doesn't really get talked about a lot, actually, the role of it. I always feel like small business is kind of positioned like that's a nice thing to do, right? And actually it's, as you say, it's actually critical to the foundations of how we work, and the community bit, as you say, so important.
Yeah.
So we're talking about backing yourself and against the odds. So somebody's listening to our talk and they are feeling everything is against them, like the odds. And you've given some examples of that when you just think, oh, I just want to quit. This just doesn't feel like this is going to happen. What's your advice to people in that space?
One, recenter yourself. So I would say, feel all those feelings. Don't run away from them, right? Feel them, right? And then tell yourself, remind yourself, reflect on every single time you have overcome the odds, because all of us have instances in our lives when we've overcome the odds. We just forget when we get a new odd.
I love that.
We forget because we get worried and fear creeps in, right? And what fear does, it actually masks everything that we've done before, and it threatens to envelop us, right? But if you take the moment to rest, right? I want to say this, rest is revolutionary too, right? I have learned that over these 6 years of being an entrepreneur. If you take the time to rest and then reflect, right? And then give yourself space to dream, no matter if you're afraid or not, right? Because I jumped in afraid. My advice is do it afraid. But while you're doing it afraid, do your research, write down your goals and objectives. One of the things that I've always done, even from a young girl, okay, is I've always written down what I want out of life, right? Now I write it in my phone in my notes section, but I've always written it down kind of in a journal. And again, back to my mom sharing the scripture with me. She used to always say, write it down and make it plain, and in many days it shall return. Right. And so I write down the things that I want. And I remember, and this is what fuels me. I remember when I was like a 23-year-old getting ready to go into corporate America, and I had student loan bills, and I needed to make a certain salary in order to be able to take care of myself and pay my bills. And so I figured out that I needed to make like twice my age. Now that's a long time ago, right? But I needed to make twice my age. And so I wrote down in a book that I wanted to make twice my age. I wanted to travel all over the world on somebody else's dime. I wanted to influence people. I wanted to write for a living. And Eleanor, every single thing came true. Every single thing. So much so that I did change one of those things. I wrote down that I wanted to make 5 times my age. And can I tell you that manifested? That came true. And so not just 5 times my age at 23, but it kept being true as my age increased. And I love that. So one, I would say again, write down your goals. No matter if you're afraid, write them down. You don't have to tell anybody. And that's what I tell people that I mentor. Okay. Have big, crazy goals, like goals that you yourself don't even believe that you can achieve. Those are the type of goals that you need to have, because when you have those, you may not reach those because they're past the moon, but you may get the stars, right? And so you have to have these huge goals that you can have different people and different institutions and different instances and evolving of yourself to meet those goals. And it doesn't matter if you have all the tools, they will come along the way if you just put one foot in front of the other.
Oh, I love that. I think that is what we've all got to write down. I've written down jump in afraid and put one foot in front of another. Just simple stuff, but just reduces the overwhelm, doesn't it? Love it.
Yes.
Love
Yes.
it. Okay, so to close the talk, I almost wanted to close there because that's just such a like boom, but I got one more little question. So what is written down in your secret book now? Can we have a peek at what's coming in against the odds, against everything that's going on right now? What is Dawn's goals for the next couple of years?
My goal for the Nourish Spot is to increase our footprint in airports around the world. One of the things that I did learn from my former employer, they were a global company operating internationally, right? A global company operating locally in international markets. And so I believe the Nourish Spot can be the same. There are fruits and vegetables that are germane to every single country, every single community. So we could bring the Nourish Spot to the UK. We could take the Nourish Spot to Asia. We could take the Nourish Spot to the motherland where my people come from. And we could nourish others using the fruits and vegetables that are native to their land. That's my dream, Eleanor. That's what I'm moving forward. And that's what I hope that the heavenlies are conspiring to help me achieve.
Me too. And I can see it and I can feel it. It's going to happen. There's no doubt about that. I love it. Thank you so much, Dawn. I loved all of that. Your energy is amazing. If somebody has watched that and they still don't feel like they can back themselves, watch it again. That's what I'm going to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if anyone is interested in reaching out to me, come, let us nourish you. Find us at the Nourish Spot, at the Nourish Spot on all the socials, and reach out to us, nourish.eden@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Eleanor. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your conference.